Hey, and welcome back to Hack the Platform, the channel where we go deep into real technical scenarios with Microsoft Power Platform and the wider Microsoft ecosystems. If you're building enterprise solutions with Power Pages, Power Platform, or React single-page applications on top of Microsoft services, make sure you like and subscribe because this series is specifically for you. Today we continue our Power Pages and single-page application series with part 5. Where we finally look at one of the most powerful new preview features, server logic in Power Pages for SPAs. We will be using it inside single-page application. Okay, let's go. We continue directly from the project we built in part 4. If you want to follow along, the GitHub repo is linked below in the description. The blog post is also in the description with full steps that are documented in my blog post. And also you can download the exact project state from the part 4 branch. If you didn't watch part 4, I strongly recommend doing that first so that you understand the foundation. In part 4, we used Power Automate as our backend for our React single-page applications inside Power Pages. Yeah, and while that works great for many scenarios, it's not optimal if you need high performance, you need low latency logic, or you want direct integration with external APIs like Microsoft Graph. And that is where server logic comes in. It allows you to write the back-end JavaScript logic to call Microsoft Graph from our React single-page applications safely and in production-oriented way. So we will see how to do that. And for this video, I'm not coming with a fully prepared solution. Instead, we are going to generate code together using Copilot and AI prompts right here during the recording. This means you'll see the real process, how I structure prompts, how Copilot responds, and what the initial output looks like. And of course, as always, the first AI-generated version won't be perfect. Later in this video, you'll see me debug the issues, adjust the logic, fix the code so that everything works end to end. And in the GitHub repository for part 5, you'll find the final corrected code, all the prompts we used together, and then some notes how this can be fixed and why. This way you can follow the same workflow, generate, refine, debug, and ship. So, and here is the scenario that we will be working on. Let's say we have an authenticated user in our Power Pages portal. We want to display all Microsoft Entra ID groups this user belongs to. The rules are the following one. Only authenticated users can access this. No secrets tokens on the front end. This is a single page applications. All code is in the browser. The call must be executed using application permissions. We will configure this in the Microsoft Entra ID within application permissions, the app registration, and all logic happens on the server. So the user logs into the portal, yeah, and our page shows here are all your Entra ID groups membership. First of all, I want just to show them, certainly that you can use that logic in your background logic where you add access or do not add access to the user based on the group's membership. Let me quickly explain and show what we will be building today. So first we will start with a Microsoft Entra ID app registration with application permissions for Microsoft Graph, and from that we will get client ID and client secret. Then we'll configure environment variables and site settings configuration where we will store the client ID and client secrets. Then we'll create a server logic in JavaScript that authenticates using client credentials, calls the Graph API, returns the group data. And then eventually we will build a React page in our single page application and implement the server logic endpoint calling, and everything will be rendered for the authenticated users. And finally, we will deploy, publish, and test everything. Okay, let's start. Okay, the app registration. First, we need to create the app registration in Microsoft Entra ID, and the app registration will create for us the client ID. We will need to create the client secret and add the application level Microsoft Graph permissions. Client permissions or delegated permissions is not something that we can use here because there is no user context. The Power Pages application as an app will contact the Graph API and query everything. Okay, so let's quickly do that. Again, because our server logic executes as an application, not as the user, the required Microsoft Graph application permissions are the following: group read all, user read all, and then make sure you grant admin consent for both of them. I generated a secret, and we will use the value and also the client ID of this app registration in the next step. So, environment variables and site settings. Instead of hard coding secrets inside the JavaScript code, we store them securely in the environment variables that will be mapped eventually to the site settings. Unfortunately, we cannot create the environment variables of type secret because those values cannot be obtained within the code and they cannot be mapped to the site settings, but maybe something will be changed. So I understand that it is not 100% secure, especially for the client secret, but I still want to show you how you can store everything inside environment variables, then map the environment variables to your site settings, and then use those site settings, get these values inside your JavaScript code within the server logic functions. Okay, I will quickly create environment variables. So then we map those environment variables to Power Page site settings so they are available in server logic but never exposed to the client. No front-end leaks, no secrets in JavaScript bundles, only secure server-side access. Let me do that. Okay, I cannot find the environment variables. I think I need to publish everything. Okay, here we are. Okay, now the core part, server logic. We need to create the server logic with the code that will run only on the server, check if the user is authenticated, get an app-only token for Microsoft Entra ID, call Microsoft Graph using the member of endpoint for the users, and return the list of groups. Yeah. So let's first start creating the server logic. The server logic gets created, the groups.js file. Those files, they will contain usually 4 functions, the 4 methods: the get, the post, put, and patch and delete. Okay, 5. So we have delete, patch, put, post, and get. The HTTP verbs which you can use against the endpoint. And then if you execute the get method, that is executed, described here, then the post method here, put here. So we will be using only get here. We will not be using anything else. So let's try to generate for us a code that we need that we will just simply insert into the get function. I'm asking the Copilot to create for me the code to read the data from the site settings, also to implement the call, the Microsoft Graph API endpoint, so how the functions will be exposed, so on and so forth. Let me quickly check what we receive. So the function gets user email, we will get the user email. If there is no email provided, which means that the user is not authenticated, we will see unauthorized user is not authenticated. Okay, that's exactly what we need. Then we will read site settings from Entra ID credentials. This should be okay. If there are any credentials that are missing, we will get the error message. Okay. Then we will get the user ID from query parameters. That's actually not what we need. We will remove that later on. The token URL. Yes, we will use this token URL. The token body. Client ID, client secret, scope, Microsoft Graph credentials. Okay, yeah, let's check if it actually works. Then there will be a token response. We will extract the response. We will get the access token. If there is no access token, we will also see the error message. And then we will call the Graph API on this URL. We will provide the token and we will then extract the response from it. And we will provide a group ID and the group display name. We'll return the JSON response. Okay, it looks fine. We need just to maybe do some tiny things that, to fix that. So it looks fine. I will use it meanwhile, and then later on we can test if it actually works. So our server logic function is ready. Let's do the same, but for the React.js application, for our single page application code, and then add the part where this piece of code will be called, and we will see the list of users within the React.js single page applications. Okay. In our React page, we will call the server logic API, wait for the response, handle loading, errors, and render the list of groups. The frontend doesn't know how Graph API works. Yeah, it only talks to our secure backend, so the server logic, and all sensitive operations stay in server logic. So here I have a GitHub Copilot included within the Visual Studio Code. So I will use the next prompt within this GitHub Copilot. Yeah. So a senior React developer working on powerpages SPA, it needs to create the new page that will be calling specific endpoint, and then a couple of things that I want it to implement. So there is a tiny mistake that I've just seen. Let me quickly check that. So I will provide you the correct URL in the prompt, but here that was a mistake from my side. I simply provided API/groups, but actually it's API/server logic/groups. Okay, now this everything should be fine. Let me then build the project. And then again, I need to download the code site. And then upload everything's back. So it seems everything was deployed. Let's just test it. So we are already logged in. If we open the group, showing no 0 groups, and we think that everything's fine, but actually it is not. Let me quickly check what's going on. I'm querying the groups and I'm getting this response. I see already that the response looks like this object, so I might need to update the React.js code initially, but let's first see what's the problem here. Failed to acquire token and then the status undefined. Let's check it here. Failed to acquire token. We can see this message here. So the problem is that somehow this token body, token headers doesn't work right. Yeah. So And I see there is the encode URI component. It doesn't actually look right. There is a piece of code on the Microsoft documentation which actually describes how to contact Graph API. Yeah, we will simply use this function, and instead of simply copying and pasting it, I will tell the Copilot to update it. Yes, this is exactly what I need. Then also what we see, the token response status code. It's not clear what this is. This should be done like that. Let's check this out. Now we see the next message that they failed to resolve the user ID with this email address. Let's check it. And the errors here is pretty much the same. I will return user lookup response to see what's going on there. So everything's fine. Everything is returned. There is a status code, there is a body, and then the user is obtained. Something's not working. Meanwhile, we can remove that. So we see that the user is being obtained. Now let's check this out again. Graph API called failed. So now we have this problem, and I think the problem here is pretty much the same. Then again, I remove all this piece of code. Meanwhile, I don't need that. Let me quickly check if everything is correctly returned. We see that it's working. So status success. User email is found, and then we have a lot of different groups. So it's not value, it's groups. Yeah. So that's what we actually need. So we have success, user email, and groups. Now, what I want to do right now is the following one. I want to check what exactly is going on in our React JS code. I'm calling the groups, and inside the groups, I'm checking date value. And this is the problem. That is exactly the problem that I have. What I need to do, I need to tell the Copilot, hey, this is the data that I'm supposed to receive from the server logic. Okay, so upload is complete. let's test it again. And it's working. So I got the groups. If I log out and try to open the groups, I get the 403 forbidden. So for the anonymous users, it is not allowed. If I log in and I open the groups, I get all different groups. They are rendered like that. Okay, let it be. Not a problem, but it is working. Okay, so let's sum it up. Okay, in this video, we used the new server logic preview feature in powerpages, secured a backend using the Microsoft Entra ID app registration with the API permissions. Okay, we called a Microsoft graph safely without exposing a secret. So initially we got the token here, yes. Then we did this obsolete call. Actually, we don't need that, but okay. So it was generated from the Copilot for us. And then we made the call that we really needed to understand which groups a user belongs to, and then return it back to our PowerPages single page applications. We then integrated everything inside the single page application. Yeah, so that's how it looks here. And then this pattern is incredibly powerful, reusable for role-based UI, for example, different feature toggles maybe, yeah, license checks, but actually I wanted just to show you that it works. So the server logic is working, how you can test it out, which permissions and how you can all these configures. And again, all links, code, AI prompt are in the description below. However, you might have seen that those prompts do not always work. Okay. And in the end, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next part of the Hack the Platform. Okay, bye.